So, why is it that so many people feel socially isolated, whether by choice or by imposition of others, or at least being a perceived imposition of others? In social isolation, is it good or bad? It depends. It depends on the reason for you being isolated, and it really depends on how you feel when you are being isolated. Because if you're going down the path of isolating yourself because you're pissed off at people, maybe you're pissed off at society and the expectations of others and the expectations of society. If you're doing it purely as a form of resistance against the status quo, then you will soon start to find yourself in this meaningless state, this unfulfilled existence. Because that with that mindset, you're not really gaining anything. You're kind of digging a hole for yourself. You're burying your head in it, and then you just can't really see the way forward. But sometimes isolation can be beneficial. It can be good if you're doing it with a clear purpose. Perhaps you're using it as an opportunity to get your shit together. Because maybe you've been on all kinds of weird paths, and pursuing any of those paths will probably just screw you up even more. So isolating yourself could give you a chance to hit the reset button. So it can be good to withdraw yourself some, to give yourself that opportunity to come back a stronger and better you, where you're no longer on those paths that you were before. And importantly, any form of isolation should be used to cultivate value in yourself in all aspects of your life, where you gain new and richer perspectives. It shouldn't be a decision you take where you end up wallowing in your own bitterness, hoping one day that others in society sees and realizes your worth because you currently feel no one does. That's not the way to go about it, because if you withdraw yourself in the hopes that you being away from people will start to see your worth, then that's a path for self-destruction. Because the world just doesn't really recognize that kind of attitude, that kind of withdrawal. If you want the world to recognize you, if you want others to recognize you, if you want to make an impact, then you need to realize that the world rewards value, rewards people who are not afraid to dream and take steps to see those dreams come true. What you need to have is a certain caliber about yourself, where you go out and make things happen. You make change for the better, where there's a certain part of your life holding you back. But if you do the opposite, which is you instead just sit around waiting for others to see your value, you'll see that people just don't care for those who sit in the sidelines, who have nothing to add to society, who have nothing of benefit to provide, just complaining, being angry. Nobody really cares about those because you have plenty of those people everywhere. And they just drain and don't offer. So, isolation, withdrawing yourself, it can be a good opportunity for you if done for the right reasons. For example, it can be a good opportunity for you to weed out unwanted distractions in your life. Let's say you're under the toxic spell of a narcissist or some other manipulative person, and you need to withdraw from them to kind of refine yourself and stabilize yourself. Or maybe you might have unhealthy habits and you need to withdraw yourself from people generally, from the influence of people, until you can get your act together and get control over your habits and hopefully adopt healthier ones. Then a period of isolation might just help you, it might save you. But of course, you can't always isolate yourself from everybody, but sometimes you want to isolate yourself from just about everybody. Keep minimal interaction. Because when done for the right reasons, it can help you gain clarity of your own purpose. And it helps you see the way forward, it helps you establish the most logical next steps to take towards your next destination and getting rid of anything that's holding you back. The thing is, when you live in a world where you're always trying to conform and to meet other people's expectations, sometimes you forget that you do have your own vantage point, you do have your own self-interest, you do have your own preferences. And sometimes it's easy to forget that because you start seeing yourself through the lens of another as opposed to through your own lens. It's like you're at risk of relinquishing control and your own purpose to others, those who are incapable of seeing things from your vantage point, so you find it difficult to be true to yourself. And it's not that others try to do that. Sometimes it just happens without any intent. So self-reflection, introspection, those types of things come when you allow yourself the time to recenter yourself, to think inwards, and remove the distractions of other people. When you've refined your own vantage point, you're able to see yourself, your flaws, your strengths. And when you can see your weaknesses, you can confront those. You can also establish new strengths. That's why people often say that important decisions are usually best made alone. Of course, you can consult with others before you make the decision, talk, etc. But before you take any decisive action on anything that's really important to you, have some alone time, reflect, introspect. Make the decision when you don't have any outside interference. Because no one really understands what you aligning with your purpose, your higher self, your true interest. Nobody understands that connection but you. And oftentimes, the only thing that tells you when you're connected or not is your gut. And nobody can feel your gut but you. But if you ever do end up isolating yourself, you don't want to be isolated for too long. Because when you withdraw yourself from people for too long, you can become too set in your ways. You can become too stubborn. You might stop wanting to learn new things. And you don't want to be someone who is unwilling to adapt, unwilling to make yourself compatible with the world and humanity. You have to be able to coexist in a world that isn't there to satisfy your every whim, your every wish. But to make that work towards your advantage, you have to first adapt and merge yourself into that world. And it's only after you adapt and merge yourself into the world can you then leave your mark. But if you have a lack of adaptability, you're at a huge disadvantage because you soon become obsolete in a world where you're not adaptable. And there's no point hating people or society because of your lack of adaptability. It makes you vulnerable to anything the world comes at you. It makes you weak when anything comes your way that you disagree with or which you feel is offensive. But sometimes it's worth realizing that no matter how isolated or vulnerable or misunderstood you feel, there are people out there who do share similar values and who share similar belief systems to you. And it can be a great feeling when you come across those people and interact with them, even if it's just for brief moments. And this whole point around isolation and human connection, yeah, I think a lot of people say from time to time they enjoy human connection, but a lot of people also say they can't stand people and they want to be isolated. And a lot of people tell themselves that story for a long time, but then they're unhappy. What people sometimes forget is human beings are hardwired to want to form interpersonal connections. And the simple reason is we are social beings. And we are biologically designed to reproduce, which also means we are biologically designed to want to seek intimacy. If we just take, for example, men are hardwired to want to spread their seed, spread their semen. So they're hardwired to want to attract a quality partner who can be the holder of that seed and cultivate their offspring. It's the only way they can ensure the survival of the next generation. when it comes to men, so often that's why men have this subconscious need and desire to want to be successful, because successful men feel that's what it takes to attract a quality partner. And women have their own ways of wanting to attract men for similar purposes, to reproduce and to make sure that the offspring has the best chance of survival. Oftentimes people forget that, but they have this urge to have intimacy, connection, but it's driven by that very primitive instinct. And we forget sometimes when we think that isolation is okay, when in fact it's okay at times, but perhaps not forever. So, and I think that's really the crux, isn't it? You don't want to isolate yourself for too long and for the wrong reasons, because that will slowly break you apart. But if you're able to connect with like-minded people, especially those who somehow help you and help your dreams come true, people who are on the path to all those things that you seek and aspire to, and then on occasion you might withdraw yourself just for the right reasons, just to maintain that connection with yourself. If you approach it like that, connecting and isolating with that kind of mindset and approach, then you're most likely you're going to go down a path to your own personal fulfillment.